There comes a time in every individual's journey where the silence is louder than applause, and the darkness deeper than any night. That's where the real growth happens. In those unseen hours, in the moments when no one is calling, texting, or checking in, you are confronted with the rawest version of yourself, and it's in that solitude that you're given the most powerful opportunity, the chance to build without recognition, to develop without distraction, and to rise without validation. Most people fear being alone. They associate solitude with abandonment, with failure, with lack. But solitude isn't the absence of support. It's the presence of clarity. It strips away all noise. It removes the external opinions, the pressures, the expectations, and what you're left with is your own voice. The question then becomes, what are you going to do with it? There's something sacred about the grind that no one sees, waking up early when no one tells you to, pushing through pain without an audience, failing, adjusting, learning, and doing it all over again with no one around to cheer you on. That's where character is forged. That's where resilience is born, when you keep going even when the crowd is gone, when the lights are off, when no one cares whether you show up or not. That's when you start separating yourself from the rest. People are always looking for support, waiting for the right partner, the right team, the right conditions. But sometimes life doesn't give you that. Sometimes you've got to run your race with no one in the stands. No coach on the sideline, no team in the huddle, just you. And when that happens, you realize, something powerful, you're enough. Not because it's easy, not because you have everything figured out, but because you decided that quitting wasn't an option. Because you chose to believe that your vision is worth pursuing even if nobody else sees it. That belief, that unshakable confidence in the face of loneliness, is what builds greatness. Not ego, not bravado, but an internal fire that says, I will become who I said I would be, even if it takes everything I have. That's what makes the difference between the person who waits for circumstances to be perfect and the one who creates despite the chaos. When you're alone, there's no one to lie to, no one to impress. The mirror doesn't flinch. You're forced to reckon with your own inconsistency, your own excuses. And in that honesty, in that brutal clarity, lies your opportunity. Because when you take ownership of where you are, you unlock the power to change it. There's no scapegoat. There's no safety net. And that level of accountability turns weakness into strength and doubt into drive. Solitude sharpens the mind. It makes the mission personal. It turns dreams into obsessions. When you have no one to motivate you, you learn to motivate yourself. And that's when you become dangerous. Not because you have all the answers, but because you've learned how to keep moving without them. There's an edge that comes with building in the dark, the kind of edge that doesn't fade when people stop watching. When you've trained your mind to perform without applause, you don't crumble when you're criticized. You don't shrink when you're overlooked. Because you're not performing for them anyway. You're performing for the promise you made to yourself. And that promise becomes sacred when no one else is around to hold you to it. Most people underestimate the power of doing it alone. They think they need validation, that someone has to notice their effort for it to matter. But real warriors know the truth. Silence is where the transformation happens. When you're sweating in empty gyms, studying in quiet rooms, working double shifts while everyone else is sleeping. That's where the foundation is laid. And when the results come, because they will come, it's not just success you've earned. It's self-respect. It's knowing you didn't take shortcuts, that you didn't wait for someone to hand it to you. You showed up. You stayed late. You kept your word when no one was watching. And there's a different level of pride that comes with that. A different kind of confidence that can't be faked, can't be bought. People look at finished products and applaud, but they rarely understand the process. They don't see the long nights, the loneliness, the sacrifices, and maybe they never will. But that's okay because the process was never about them. It was about becoming someone who doesn't fold under pressure, someone who doesn't need a crowd to commit, someone who doesn't need to be seen to believe in the mission. Doing it alone teaches you how to fight, not with fists but with focus. With discipline, with consistency. When the world goes quiet and all you have left is your will to keep going, that's when your instincts sharpen. That's when your purpose reveals itself. Not in comfort, but in conflict. Not in approval, but in persistence. So when you find yourself alone, don't run from it. Don't fill the silence with distractions. Sit in it. Use it. Let it push you. Let it humble you. Let it build you. Because if you can conquer yourself in solitude, there's nothing you can't handle in the spotlight. If you can show up for your goals without recognition, without support, without praise, then you've already won. Because you've built the most powerful weapon anyone can possess, self-mastery. And once you've built that, no one can take it from you. In life, some of the most transformative moments occur not in the crowd, not in the noise, and not when the world is watching, but in solitude, when the world is silent and we're left alone with our thoughts, fears, doubts, and ambitions. It's in this space that growth begins. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's a powerful state of self-confrontation and discipline. It's the forge where character is shaped, resilience is built, and clarity emerges. Far too often, people run from being alone. They seek validation, noise, company, and distractions to escape the discomfort of facing themselves. But if you can learn to sit in silence, to be alone and still not feel empty, then you begin to understand the depth of your own strength. When you're alone, there's no one to blame, no one to depend on, and no one to lean on. You are both the problem and the solution. That truth can be brutal, but it's also empowering. Because when you realize that no one is coming to save you, you stop waiting and start moving. You stop making excuses and start building discipline. Solitude becomes a mirror, not the kind that reflects your appearance, but one that reflects your habits, mindset, and internal dialogue. It reveals the areas of your life that require attention. It strips away the external layers, the ego, the noise, and leaves only the raw version of yourself. This is where real change begins. In the quiet, in the solitude, when you're not influenced by outside opinions or expectations, when you're not performing for anyone, just you and the truth. And in that truth, you begin to confront the weak parts of your character, the procrastination, the self-doubt, the fear, the hesitation. You can't hide from them anymore. You have to face them head on. And it's in that confrontation that strength begins to form. Not the kind of strength that boasts loudly or seeks recognition, but the quiet, internal kind that doesn't waver when pressure rises. The kind that makes you get up early, push through setbacks, and keep going when nothing seems to be working. In solitude, you begin to realize that discipline isn't about motivation. It's about doing what needs to be done whether you feel like it or not. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline is rooted. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need a crowd. It just needs commitment. When you're alone, you can't rely on someone else to push you. You have to become your own coach, your own cheerleader, your own drill sergeant. That voice inside your head has to stop being your enemy and start becoming your ally. You have to train it, sharpen it, and condition it until it's a force that drives you, not drags you. Solitude also brings clarity. In the absence of distraction, your purpose becomes clearer. Your goals become sharper. You begin to see what actually matters. The noise of the world often clouds judgment. People will try to impose their limits, their fears, their expectations on you. But in solitude, none of that matters. You begin to hear your own voice. You begin to trust your own instincts. And that's when real decisions are made, not from a place of pressure, but from a place of understanding. It's easy to follow the crowd. It's easy to do what everyone else is doing. It's hard to stand alone. It's hard to choose the path that no one else is walking. But that's the path that builds champions. The gym is empty early in the morning. The office is quiet late at night. Success doesn't live in the crowd. It lives in the moments when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, and you're still pushing forward. That's where your edge is built. That's where you separate yourself. Most people crave support before they move. They say, I'll start when someone helps me, or I'll do it when I have a team. But what if no one shows up? What if no one believes in your dream but you? That's where being alone becomes your superpower. Because once you've proven to yourself that you can show up without applause, that you can push through without encouragement, you become unstoppable. You don't need ideal conditions. You don't need agreement. You don't need anyone to tell you it's okay. You become your own validation. People often confuse solitude with weakness, but the strongest individuals are the ones who have walked through darkness alone and still kept going. They didn't wait for someone to hold their hand. They didn't fold under pressure. They rose, not because someone lifted them, but because they refused to stay down. Being alone taught them that pressure isn't something to fear. It's something to embrace. It's the pressure that molds you. It's the adversity that sharpens your focus. Even in the journey of building something from scratch, whether it's a dream, a business, or a new version of yourself, there are seasons when no one understands what you're doing. People may laugh, they may doubt, they may turn their backs. That's when solitude becomes your shield. It protects your vision. It guards your fire. Because when no one else sees it, you have to hold on to it even tighter. You have to believe in it enough for everyone. The time you spend alone is an investment. Every rep done without a spotter. Every late night of study. Every weekend of work while others are partying. It adds up. It compounds. And one day when the results show, people will ask how you did it. But they weren't there when you were alone in the grind. They didn't see the nights you wanted to quit. They didn't see the tears, the sacrifice, the doubt. And they won't understand because they didn't do the work. But you did. Alone. Quietly. Relentlessly. In solitude, you build something else. Self-respect. The kind of respect that only comes from honoring your word to yourself. From following through when no one would have known if you quit. From showing up day after day, not for the world, but for your own growth. That kind of self-respect is unshakable. It's not based on likes, applause, or approval. It's based on earned pride. And when you carry that, the world starts to notice. Not because you demanded attention, but because the results became undeniable. So if you find yourself alone, don't run from it. Embrace it. Dive into it. Let it strip you down, refine you, and build you back up stronger than ever. Because in that silence, you're not losing yourself. You're finally meeting who you really are. There's a certain power in solitude that only those who've walked alone truly understand. When you're building something, whether it's a career, a dream, a new life, there often isn't a crowd standing behind you. There are no spotlights, no cheerleaders, no accolades echoing through the halls. Instead, it's just you. You and your vision. You and the weight of your ambitions. You and the silence that fills the room after every late night and early morning. You build it brick by brick alone in the dark. Not because you want to be alone, but because no one else sees what you see. No one else feels it the way you feel it. That kind of grind demands a different breed of commitment. It's not about showing off the hustle for likes or applause. It's about discipline in its purest form. Choosing to show up every day, not because someone told you to, but because the fire inside you won't let you rest. There's no coach, no mentor, no partner tapping you on the shoulder reminding you of your goal. You are the coach. You are the motivator. You are the force keeping it all together. The journey begins in silence, and most days it continues that way. That's where greatness is formed. In the places no one else is willing to go. In the sacrifices no one else is willing to make. The parties you didn't attend. The sleep you gave up. The relationships you lost because people didn't understand your focus. They didn't see the vision, and they didn't have to. Because it wasn't theirs to see. It was yours to build. The frustration, the setbacks, the failures, none of them stopped you. You kept laying the bricks, one by one. And even when the foundation cracked, you repaired it with your bare hands and kept going. The truth is, most people want the outcome but not the isolation that comes with it. They want the result without the sacrifice. But when you're the one doing the work, when you're the one staying up past midnight mapping out the next move, when you're the one putting in the reps without anyone watching, you develop a different kind of resilience. You don't just become successful, you become unbreakable. Because you've proven to yourself time and time again that you don't need a crowd to keep going. You don't need constant validation. You've got something far more valuable, self-respect, forged through discipline and repetition, and it's in the dark, in that invisible arena where no one claps for you, where the real transformation happens. You start to understand your worth not by what others think of you, but by what you've endured and what you've created. Every hour you spend working while others rest becomes a deposit into your future. Every choice to delay gratification becomes a brick in the wall of your legacy. And over time, you stop worrying about who notices. You stop trying to explain your path to those who don't walk it. You realize that if they can't see the vision now, they don't deserve to stand in the finished building later. But don't get it twisted. Being alone isn't always peaceful. It's lonely. It's painful. It forces you to wrestle with your own mind. Doubt creeps in. Fear speaks loud. You question whether it's all worth it. You wonder if maybe you're delusional, if maybe you're chasing something that won't come. And yet you continue. Because somewhere deep down, you know that even if no one else understands, you do. And that's enough. There's a certain kind of hunger that comes from being on your own. It's the hunger of a person with no backup plan, no safety net, no one to bail them out if it all falls apart. That kind of pressure either crushes you or shapes you. And if you let it, it will turn you into a machine. Relentless, focused, unshakable. Not because you were born that way, but because life demanded it of you and you rose to meet the challenge. Eventually, what you build in silence starts to speak for itself. The results begin to show. The work begins to pay off. People who once overlooked you now ask how you did it. They want to know your secret. But there is no secret. Just consistency. Just an unbreakable decision to keep moving forward even when it didn't make sense, especially when it didn't make sense. And by then you realize you no longer need the validation, because the process has already transformed you. You've built more than a dream. You've built a mindset, a character, a life that no one can take from you. The journey isn't for everyone. Most will give up. Most will fold when the applause dies down and the lights dim. But those who stay, those who keep stacking bricks in silence, they create something permanent. Not just success, but greatness. Not just achievement, but legacy. And the world will eventually see the structure they built alone in the dark and marvel. But by then you won't be marveling. You'll be building the next thing. Because you've already learned the most important lesson. You never needed them to believe in you. You just needed to believe in yourself. There is a certain kind of strength that comes not from applause or recognition, but from persistence in silence. The kind of strength that is built when no one is watching, when the crowd is absent, and when the only cheerleader is the voice within. In those moments when progress feels invisible and the work seems unending, something extraordinary begins to take root. Every step forward, however small, lays the foundation for greatness. Each act of discipline, each choice to keep going when giving up would be easier, builds a structure that no storm can tear down. Brick by brick in the shadows, that foundation is laid. It begins with waking up early, not because someone said to, but because there's a mission worth rising for. It continues with staying up late, pushing past exhaustion, committed to something greater than comfort. Each of those moments becomes a brick, a tangible piece of progress in a structure nobody else sees yet. But that's the beauty of it. When building something meaningful, the results don't show up right away. It's not glamorous, it's not shared on social media, it's not validated by likes or comments. It's raw, it's personal, and it's powerful. In the silence, clarity is forged. When there are no distractions, no validation, and no immediate reward, purpose becomes louder. The absence of external noise forces a confrontation with the internal dialogue. It becomes impossible to fake commitment in solitude. Either the work is done or it isn't. Either the actions match the ambition or they don't. That honesty is brutal, but it's necessary. It's in that raw truth that growth begins. It's in facing that internal voice, the one that questions doubts and challenges, that real grit is developed. Being alone on the journey isn't a weakness. It's a rite of passage. There are times when no one else will understand the vision. There will be days when the people who were expected to support disappear. That's okay. Because when doing something great, there will be periods of isolation. Those are the moments that separate those who dream from those who do. It's easy to commit when the world is watching, but the true test comes in solitude, when no one sees the effort, and yet the choice is made to show up, day after day, without recognition or reward. That commitment compounds. Each moment of discipline, every hour invested in silence, becomes a building block. The consistency begins to create momentum. And with momentum, something incredible begins to happen. The vision that once seemed distant starts to take shape. What was once only imagined begins to manifest in reality. But not because of sudden inspiration or luck. It happens because of the consistent effort applied in solitude. Because the bricks were laid patiently, relentlessly, without shortcuts, without skipping steps. There is power in the process. The process teaches patience, resilience, and self-reliance. It reveals the value of hard work in its purest form, not the kind that seeks attention, but the kind that changes the person doing it. When building something alone, the victories are different. They're not about external trophies, they're internal shifts, developing stronger discipline, deeper resolve, and a sharper focus. These are not things that can be given or bought. They are earned in full through persistence in private. There's a reason why people who've done it alone speak with such conviction. They've been tested in ways most haven't. They've experienced the doubt, the fear, and the temptation to quit. But they kept going. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. Because something inside refused to settle for less. Because there was no other option but forward. That kind of grit isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It shows up in actions, not words. It shows up in consistency, not hype. It shows up in the results that come after years of unseen effort. The path of doing it alone requires an unwavering belief in the goal, Not every day will feel inspired. In fact, most days won't. But those are the days that matter most, the ones where motivation is absent but the work gets done anyway. That's where the foundation gets stronger. That's where real transformation happens. It's not about feeling like it. It's about doing it regardless of feelings. It's about refusing to negotiate with laziness or doubt. It's about becoming the kind of person who honors their word to themselves, even when it's hard. In a world that glamorizes shortcuts, this path is different. It doesn't promise instant results, it demands patience and persistence, it requires a long-term view. But what it offers in return is unmatched. The confidence that comes from knowing nothing was handed over, nothing was faked, and every inch of progress was earned. That kind of confidence can't be taken away. It becomes part of the person. It becomes a permanent part of their character. Every delay, every failure, every setback on the journey is not a defeat. It's a lesson. It's another layer of strength being added to the foundation. It's another opportunity to adapt, to sharpen, to rise. In those moments, the choice is presented again. Stop or keep building. And with each decision to keep going, even if it's slow, the structure grows taller. The dream moves closer. The vision becomes clearer. There's a kind of quiet pride that comes from this kind of journey. Not arrogance, just the deep knowing that if it had to be done again, it could be. Because the process has already been walked. The work has already been done. The skills have already been earned. That's the real reward. Not just the outcome, but the transformation that happened along the way. The person who started the journey isn't the same as the one who finishes it. They're sharper, they're stronger. They've been through the fire and come out refined. This kind of success doesn't need to be explained. It speaks for itself. It's not about showing off what was built, it's about who was built in the process. The real power lies in that transformation, and it all began in the silence, with one decision, repeated over and over.